We're going to be starting with the I do problem with the standard form. So remember, standard form is really all based on order. And it's going to be asking you for order, the degree, the leading coefficient, and to classify it. So first thing we have to do is think, what is the order of these things? So the biggest exponent is the 3. So that's going to be my first term right there. The next biggest is the 2, so that'll be my second biggest term. Then I have an x and a constant. The x will be my third because it's x to the first. And then the constant, which is the number, goes last. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite those with the 4x to the third, but also notice there's a minus right there. So minus, or negative, 4x to the third. And then the next term is this one, and it is also a minus, so minus 5x squared. And now I have a positive 7x and a positive 12. So that's now in standard form. And the other questions it's going to ask would be, what is the degree? So I'll just write degree is equal to 3. It's the exponent of the first term. The leading coefficient, and I'm just going to write leading COEF to save a little space. It's the first number you see if you have it in standard form. That's a negative 4. And then to classify it, that's the name. It's actually 4 terms. So this one, you would just call it a polynomial. And I really should have made it either a trinomial or a binomial because these aren't on the test. So please remember, if it's a trinomial, it's 3 terms, 2 terms is binomial, and then 1 term is a monomial. Anything else is a polynomial. I noticed that I have 3 terms on the right, which is a trinomial, and 2 terms on the left. But I'm going to go ahead and line them up over here. So the 3x will line up with the negative 9x. The minus 8 is going to line up with the 12. And if I want to put in a 0x squared right there, I can. And that was a plus 3x. I'm adding, and you can see the plus right there. So 7 and 0 is still 7, so 7x squared. Negative 9 and positive 3 is minus 6x. And 12 minus 8 would be positive 4. And write this term on the right underneath this one, so I'm going to have 2x squared, and then I have minus 4y and plus 6, and that is a minus right here. And what we did with this is that we changed the subtraction to an addition, which does change all the signs. Now this is minus, so I could just make that a plus and then make that a plus negative. I'm trying not to move the paper too much there. So 7 and negative 2 is 5x squared. 5 and 4 is 9y. And negative 8 and negative 6 is going to be minus 14. I'm going to use the zero product property. So I have to set 7x plus 3 equal to 0. I'll put the word or there. 3x minus 6 is equal to 0. Or x minus 8 is equal to 0. I have to solve all 3 of those. So in this first one, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, which would be 7x equals negative 3. And then I'm going to divide by 7. So negative 3/7. The next one, I have to add 6 to both sides to get 3x equals 6, and then divide by 3, and I'll get x is equal to 2. And then the last one, all I have to do is add 8 to both sides. So those are my 3 answers for that one. One more time. As you can see on the bottom one here, it is a binomial times a trinomial. I went ahead and filled in the inside boxes, and please note that you have 2 pairs of like terms. I highlighted 2 with yellow and 2 with blue, and then underneath I combined the like terms. Was called the difference of squares. You can write that down if you want. I'll go ahead and do that. So difference of squares. And it's called that because it has a subtraction, that's the difference part, and then each of these terms has to be perfect squares. So I have to go ahead and take the square root of each of those terms. So if I take the square root of 16x squared, I'm going to get 4x. And then I'll put a semicolon there, and I have to take the square root of 36, I will get a 6. So once you have that, we can go ahead and do our answer. It's going to be 4x plus 6 and 4x minus 6. Trinomial. I'll write that as well. Perfect square trinomial. So it has to have 3 terms there. And you're going to see the pattern. We've already gone over it. So you do have to take the square root of the first term. So 4x squared, that is going to be 2x. I'm going to take the square root of the last term, which is 9. Actually, the 9 is the last term, square root of that is 3. Then I have to do, actually that's all I have to do with this one. I was going to do one other thing, but you can check to make sure this is a perfect square trinomial by multiplying these two together. So you say 2x times 3, multiply that times 2, and that has to equal 12x, and it does. So if you ever had to prove that this was a perfect square trinomial, you have it. But for our problem right here, we really just had to stop right here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight those. Those are the 2 things I need to answer my question here. So it's just going to be 2x plus 3. And it's plus here because that's a plus. If this was a minus, this would be a minus. Don't forget the little 2 right there. Factoring. The only thing is now we have to go ahead and solve it. So this one, there's 2 on the test like this one. And so please be careful with this. Remember the way we did this was this first number is A, the middle coefficient is B, the last one is C. If I could have it quiet over there, I am recording. So first off, we are going to use the X factor. And it's A times C on the top. So 6 times 4 is 24. B is going to go on the bottom. So in this case, that's negative 11. So we have to think of things that are going to multiply to positive 24 but add to negative 11. So you should just, in your mind, write down 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Now the 3 and 8 add to 11, and if I make them both negative, those would be my 2 numbers. All right. So that doesn't give us our final answer because there's this number out front. A is not a 1. So what it does do is help us split apart that 11x. So it's minus 3x minus 8x plus 4 is equal to 0. I now have 4 terms. And I'm going to put those into a box like so. Write them all. Make sure you get those exponents in there. Negative 8. X and 4. All right. So I have to get the greatest common factor, or GCF, of each row and also each column. So the biggest number that goes into 6x squared and negative 3x would be 3x. Okay. Biggest number that goes into negative 8x and 4 is a negative 4. And I'm making it negative because this number is negative. Biggest number that goes into 6x squared and negative 8x would be a 2x. And then negative 3x and 4 is just going to be a negative 1. All right, almost done. But I'm going to go ahead and write these over here. 2x minus 1, that's what I had on the top. My other factor is 3x minus 4. That is equal to 0. Now, on one of the problems on the test, we'd be done at this point. But this one is the one where you have to solve it. So I just have to go ahead and do one more thing. 2x minus 1 is equal to 0, or 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Solve for x. So add 1 to both sides, and I've got x is 1/2. And on the other side, add 4 to both sides, and x is equal to 4/3. So those would be my two answers on that one. Constant numbers on the right side of the equal sign, so we have to add that to both sides to get it on the same side. So I'm adding 20 to both sides, which means I have 0 on the right. At that point,
did you notice that they're the same?
okay, I didn't notice that they're the same. I can actually change it in just a second. Yeah, I forgot to do that one, I guess. So 1 times 20, so it's still a times c like we just did on the one above, and 9 on the bottom, and 4 and 5 would be the two numbers that multiply to 20 and add to 9. So I'm going to have x plus 4 and x plus 5. And if this was the question on the test that just said to factor, we'd be done. But this one says to solve it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and set these both equal to 0. So x is -4, or x is -5. Two at a time. And I decided not to do that last one since it's a repeat of the one to the left.